How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the UKnowAdamTsang podcast, where you get to know a little bit more about people, passions, and all things business. Today, I'm hanging out with a good friend of mine, Mr. Josh Phelps. Welcome to the show.
What's up?
Hey, for those that don't know, and this is kind of like just an inside joke between me and you were actually my second ever podcast. We did it over at the Boiling Shrimp, now known as the Saucy Shrimp. And there was just this annoying fridge in the back corner that was just going off. And I looked at my my audio, and it was I couldn't use it. I was just like, oh man, this is trash. But that was like during the time of COVID. But we're actually so happy to have you back on this show.
No, I'm happy to be here, mate. As you said, we've been trying to fit it in. We feel like for forever now since your podcast started. So I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Josh, tell me a little bit about what it is that you do, and kind of like how you found yourself in good old Statesboro, Georgia, if you will.
Yeah, well, what I do here in Statesboro is I'm a professional soccer player for Tormenta FC. But the path to getting here has been all over the gaff. It's been up, down, left, right, everywhere. I came to the US to start the collegiate career, coming over from Australia, and didn't really know much about America in general, but also much about the collegiate system, which we can get into a little bit more later. That's part of the reason why I do a little bit now with a company called Scholar Scout that help players from Australia and also here in the US find their collegiate fit, what fits right for them, within football, but also golf and a lot of other sports. But I came over to pursue the dream of playing football over here in the US. I wanted to play professionally. I knew that first stepping stone was go to college. The US system here is second to none, in my opinion, for the collegiate system with athletics and also getting a degree. So I started the path to come over here, the long plane flight to come over here. And my first college was Thomas College in Maine, which is just a couple hours north of Boston, and did really well there. I was rookie of the year my freshman year, did really well. We went to the national tournament. I sort of checked all the boxes where I wanted to check while I was up there, and decided to transfer down to North Carolina, University of North Carolina at Pembroke, UNCP. Played another year there, and did a lot of good things in the community, and started learning how to network a lot more because of some unfortunate situations. When I transferred, the NCAA took away a year of my eligibility and then also made me sit a year as well. So there was a long time there where I feel like I had moved across the world to go play football, but I wasn't really playing football.
Yeah.
So that was a tough time, but I also feel
was that something that the system did, or like
to be 100% honest, I still don't know. There's been two compliance officers they've challenged it at two different places, two different times. They tried to get me my year back, tried to get my eligibility back, and for some reason they can't tell me what it is. But there's rulings here that. I still don't
have
know.
an idea.
I still don't have a clear.
If anybody out there has the answer, please let us know what was happening there.
Yeah. So no, mate, that was a big year for me in growth off the field. I feel like I learned a lot of things, networked with a lot of people to try and still make sure that I was taking steps forward in my life and not just wasting a year. So that was a big year for me, and came back the next year and actually was made captain of the team. So I felt like I'd done a lot, on the field and off the field as well, and really started to grow a lot more of my leadership qualities and learn a lot more about myself and the type of leader I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And then graduated from there and moved my way down to Georgia.
Yeah. So, obviously, it seems like there was constantly these cards that have been stacked against you, right? Like you keep talking about these different challenges.
Yep.
I think that it's very inspiring that you are continuing down the path of doing something that you love. Oftentimes, there are times when people say, okay, well, enough is enough. It's time to get the quote unquote real job or whatever it is. But what drives you to continue to push? What drives you to, because you've also had a few injuries that because we're friends, like I'm aware of that. How do you find the energy to continue to push even when the cards are stacked against you?
It's a great question. I think a lot of it comes down to who you are, but also it's like what's important to you, what goals do you have? And for me, at the start, there was a lot of people I wanted to prove wrong. There was people back home that I felt like, had not always treated me the best, told me that I wasn't going to be doing things. And, for me, that was just extra motivation. It was like, all right, well, wait and see. And then another card got stacked against you. And you're a bit like, well, all right, well, I'm still going to keep pushing. But, injuries and stuff, that's a different game. That's definitely, for me, a mental game. You got to have the wherewithal to be able to see the long vision. I've had a couple of injuries recently that have put me out for the season, which is tough. Not also being in a team environment, but sort of feeling like you're on the outside, and how do you belong? When everything about me has been football, and that's how I relate, and that's how I, that's how I show my worth within the team. To have that taken away is then a tough feeling to be able to say, hey, how can I add value? How can I add value when I'm not playing? So separating, what you do from who you are sometimes is a pretty big game changer for people.
I'm going through that exact thing right now. I think a lot of when you're passionate about what you do, it's so hard to separate that.
Yeah.
Right? Because you probably, if you had the choice, you could probably train and like eat, live, breathe soccer every single day. But at the same time, when that piece is taken away from you, balancing it and saying like, okay, well, what did you do? Like, how did you kind of like contribute to the team, even though you weren't playing?
Well, I'm lucky in terms of my aspect is like we still have other, every morning we go in for breakfast. So there's a time there for an hour or whatever where you're eating with the team and stuff like that. Whereas it's still bringing you in to feel a part of the team, but I don't feel like I'm adding value. Maybe parts of that. Ways that I found it was, always watching the team play. Obviously, if I weren't traveling, watching on ESPN, watching the games, trying to pick up on little pieces for people in my position or things that I can see now from, when you're not just in the field, it's very different to then having that eagle eye view to, sort of looking at the film and trying to add value. But, also just for me, it's just building those relationships, having coffee with lads, bringing guys, hey, let's go get a coffee, chat, like what's going on with you? How can I use some of the experiences, some of the tools that I've got on my belt to try and then make you, more comfortable to help you within other things going on with your life, maybe not football related, and little bits and pieces like that.
Take me back to when you were in Australia. When you were growing up, was soccer always part of the equation? Was it something that you were, fascinated with? How did you decide that this was the path that you were going to take?
Football was definitely always there. I was playing football, for as long as I can remember. I always say, pretty much as long as I've been walking, I've been playing football. But there's also been a lot of other sports. Football was just a constant. For me in Australia, the summer we don't actually play football because it's too hot. We play in the winter. So my summer sport was always surf lifesaving.
What's that? Surf lifesaving?
Yeah, it's a full proper sport in Australia that's really big. So you can imagine the Ironman.
Okay.
So, it's that, but put into a sport. So there's an ocean swim, there's a board paddle, there's a beach sprint, but then there's, the Ironman is an event. They've got like board rescue events,
like
relays,
running, cycling. Do you?
There's not as much as cycling. Okay. It's the board or canoe, swim, run is the Ironman.
Individual sport.
Yep.
Okay.
Or they also do teams like we
well.
had like a beach relay, or. Which, side note, we won the gold medal for at state titles. My dad was a sprint coach at the time, and he had told us that if we had won the championship, that he'd let us wax his chest. So that's up in the memory bank. So we definitely got to wax his chest as some young kids. But it's a full sport. I said there's team events, like for example board rescue, where me and a partner. So I was the board paddler, she was the swimmer. She would swim out. Probably about 100 meters into the water, and we all had different color buoys. So then you're waiting, you're watching. As soon as they put their arm on the buoy, bang, you go out to the buoy, pick them up, paddle back in, first one across the line, those type of things. But a lot of beach event. Also grew up playing rugby for school. AFL was a big one for me. For anyone that doesn't know what AFL is, Aussie Rules. If you haven't know what Aussie Rules is, go on to YouTube. Do yourself a favor and go on YouTube and just put AFL biggest hits in. And there's some horrendous. They run around in like singlets, shorts, and
physical.
Very physical. Very physical. But yeah, I just grew up playing all those sports, and it was good because I felt like I was getting to try everything out at the time, but also I knew that what I was in my head best at, or where my passion was always football. That was always the consistent. The winter was always blocked out. Okay, I'm playing football in the winter, but I also got to try my hand at a lot of other things.
Before we kind of continue down the football route, you mentioned your dad. How much of an impact did he have on kind of like your ability to see, what you wanted to do in the future, right? Is he supportive? Because family obviously is a huge, important part of all of our lives. How did he kind of like influence you?
Massively, and just in terms of family, I just had my family over in the US.
That's awesome.
Over here visiting for about a month, so and they just left yesterday. So it's been amazing getting to do show them around the town where I live, and the town that I care about and the town that I've invested in so much, and meet some people. But they were also here for some really cool time in my life, like buying my first house and doing
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. And doing some big things. So it was really cool to have them in town for some of those things, and obviously getting to watch me play football, doing the thing I love. Yep. They haven't done that since my freshman year of college.
That's
so
crazy.
Live. Watch it online. So it's been really good to have them in town. But yeah, back to my father, for sure. He was always supportive, always pushing me, always wanting and knowing I can do better and pushing me to be the best. But he wasn't a footballing person. He grew up playing rugby. He grew up in the country. Very very hands-on. Around the house, can do a lot of things. But rugby was his main sport. But one of the biggest things I picked up off him from a very young age was that whatever I had a passion to do, he wanted to learn it so that he could then teach me.
That's
or
awesome.
that he could coach me. So,
That's awesome.
Growing up, he was my football coach. Growing up, my surf life saving age manager. Growing up, he was, he just wanted to be involved in what we were doing so that way he could, help us, push us on more. And can't thank him enough.
Yeah. So soccer is this constant in your life. Obviously super thankful for like your dad kind of like helping along the way. And so, when you said you had, I call them haters, right? Like people that doubted your ability. Where did you find them at? Like, was it kind of like during grade school that of saying like, how did they come into your life?
More on the back end. Wasn't as early. Growing up playing football. As I said, my dad was my coach for a while, especially in the young developmental years, and then we made this step to go play at a higher club and a higher level, and very supportive of it. Knew that he's out of his depth now, and all he can do is support me and take me out to the field, do extras, and so many memories of gone after school to whatever days we weren't training down to the field, and he would do whatever he can to help me do extras, get quicker, get faster, better shooting, better ball control, those type of things. But it wasn't until I guess I made a name for myself, until I had a bit of a a bit of a reputation to where more I had those haters or doubters. And some of it came from coaches, from clubs that I was playing at or clubs that, I've played for in the past. And that was sort of tough as well. When you're coming back from America, or you're coming to your hometown to, wanting to keep fit, wanting to keep playing, you have 3 months off, or you have an off season, whatever it is. And, your club that you used to play for and those type of things, so it was something that wasn't just
they wouldn't let you play
out in the distance. No, it was a tough situation. It was more of the coach not wanting me to be there at the club, but all of the senior players at the club were coming to me saying, "We want you here. Come and play. Come down to the training sessions. Come down here." And then just never getting anything from him. More of a cold shoulder. And I'm sort of sitting here. I want to keep playing for this club. I want to help these guys. Go to the finals. I want to do all these type of things.
What do you think was his problem?
To be fair, I don't know. I still don't know. In terms of the club, I left on a great relationship with them all. And as you said, the senior players who I grew up playing underneath and looking up to,
Sure.
These guys that are now, fathers and, still actually at the club playing and doing
awesome.
things. So a lot of family friends and guys that I'm really, really close with. So I'm not really sure. I don't give it much energy or anything anymore, but there's, for a crucial part of my life, they were, there to sort of push me. And again, you look at what I like to call silver linings, which I've had a lot of. That I try and take the positive hours. I think that, maybe without that, there might have been times where I didn't work as hard, or I didn't push myself, or I let things go that I shouldn't have. So,
Sure.
I'm also sort of thankful for that in that respect.
I think that's something that I respect about you greatly, right? You're in the face of any sort of adversity, you're able to see the light and take it and kind of like internalize that to push you further down the road. Haters add fuel, man. I've always said, like, the best way to get me to do something is tell me that I can't do it.
Yes, sir.
If you tell me I can't do it, you better bet your bottom dollar that I'm so
I love that too, mate.
That's great. So kind of catch me up to, we're kind of like, still playing in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Then all Australians have to go into some sort of service, correct? Is that
No, they don't. They don't. But you're right in the fact that I did go into some sort of service. Yeah. So it was high school. Finished high school out, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
So at that point you were still kind of like
I just
confused.
knew football. I just knew all I wanted to do was football. And again, not many people in Australia. This goes back to why I'm a part of Scholar Scout. Was I knew no one or knew of no one who knew anyone who had gone over and done the US, that had played in the US, so I could sort of give them a call and say, hey, what's Division 1, what's Division 2, what's NCAA.
You knew zero people.
I knew zero about that, nothing. So it was all very, very new to me. But at the time, the pathway for us is England, Europe. With England and Australia being very close. Not very close, but obviously under the Commonwealth and stuff like that. It's very easy for us to go over there and vice versa. Very easy for them to come over here. So I just knew with my contacts in Australia that, I wanted to go over to England and give it a shot, which looking back now, I think is very naive because of the other opportunities. Everyone growing up in England wants to play professional football.
Yeah.
So they've got an influx of players consistently going and playing over there. And I knew I was going to need money to do that. I didn't want to have to go over there and try to work and put everything in towards playing football.
Sure.
There's a program in Australia called the Gap Year program, which is pretty hard to get into because you only have to commit to 1 year rather than your 4 years in the military. And you go in and no one knows who the Gap Year kids are or people are there in the program and because you're fully enlisted.
Sure.
And I just started doing the testing for it. My mum and dad are sitting down and saying, hey, have you thought about doing this? And I'm thinking, well, I just want to play football. That's going to be tough to sort of.
Sure.
I can't. I'm going to be living, and I'm not going to be able to do that while I'm doing all this. So, I sort of again thought about the long vision of okay, if I can play football, if I give up this year, and I just go in, I work hard, and put my head towards this stuff, I'm going to get similar to over here. They get paid pretty well. You get looked after pretty well, and I thought that's going to give me in the military. Yeah, gotcha. I was in the army. I thought that's going to give me what I need to then, maybe
do what you want to do.
Exactly right. Then I take another year after that, and if I work part time, whatever, and I'm just strictly training. And so I saw that as a 2-year type thing. Give a year to the military, get it back into another year of just pure training, and then I want to go out and absolutely hammer it. But that was my written plan. It didn't work out like that. I was 17 when I went into the military, so I was pretty young. I had my 18th birthday in there. And I ended up getting really sick when I was in the military. I had glandular fever, tonsillitis, a virus, and a fever all at the same time. And my immune system was just all over the place. My body temperature was up, what was it in Fahrenheit? Maybe like 105 degrees, something like 40-something degrees here. And, I was just all over the place. And it got to the point where I ended up getting medically discharged from the military, either making me go back, what they call back squatting, where you go all the way back to, at the time was going to be around week 1, day 1 of basic, and I was just not about that. What the military wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't, whereas a lot of these guys that I found in there, and I've still got some guys I keep in contact with from that time, but that's what they wanted to do, and you could really see it within them. And I excelled in all the physical stuff, the training, and all those type of things. I really loved it. I had a lot of even corporals at the time come and saying, "Hey, don't leave. We want to keep you in," type thing, but I could just tell that it wasn't going to be the right time for me. So I ended up leaving, and without making that tough decision, I wouldn't have got the letter in the mailbox saying that, hey, we'd love to see you from a company that they wanted to see me come out. We bring players out to America, and we'd love to see what you got.
How did they find you?
I don't know. I don't know if there's something that they were working with, like Football Australia or Football Queensland, where they wanted addresses of people within this age group within certain states and stuff like that.
Or something
exactly,
like that.
and so I went down to a combine-y, tryout-y type thing, and they ranked all the players from 1 to 3, and then they brought all the 3s back in, the top ranks, and saw them again, and then ranked them again, and then took players to Brisbane, which is about an hour from us, and did another one. And then you get brought in, you got to bring like all your schoolwork in and, you know, show all your grades and things like that. And yeah.
How'd you do?
Grades wasn't my strongest point at the time. When I finished high school, I was always like, okay, I am never going back to school. And, like, I was that guy. I was like, I'm done with school. I'm never going back. And, you know, it's funny how that works out because, you know, we did my 4 years. And once I really applied myself, or maybe it was more once it got put to me, you got to do your school to be able to play football. That's when I was like, okay, this is going to be, you know, I'm going to have to put myself into this and do a lot of work. And now I'm starting my master's in this month. So
look at that.
Yeah, so I'm back in school.
Never say never.
Never say never. Yeah.
That's super cool. So this brings us to kind of like, you know, you start. I guess you make is this still high school or this is after high school?
This is So then now
college.
Now I just got in the scholarship to go over to America.
So you did get.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So after I did all that, that was they were called, I think, NSR or something like that. The company, and they were recruiting for. They pretty much then keep you in a database, and then coaches that want players, they reach out to them, and then they obviously can say, okay, what position? Okay, we've got these guys. Have a look at them. They show you all the film.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I want this guy. They reach out. They start chatting, and that's how that process starts. And then offer scholarships, et cetera, et cetera.
Take me back to that moment. So, you know, obviously you are wanting to do this, and then you finally get a call of someone that's interested. How many calls did you get?
I probably had, you know, that first year. It wasn't about calls. They would reach out to the agency, and the agency would come to us. But I had, you know, 3 to 4 to 5 solid offers of ones that I was sort of really looking at. I remember, you know, sitting there with my parents, and again, this is America, which is, you know, the other side of the world.
I'm trying to get to that point, right?
Yeah. So it's the other side of the world, and I'm sitting down with my notepad, and I'm making notes of like, okay, whatever city this is, population size, how far it is from the beach, ratio of women to boys. Like I have this
broke
notebook
it down. Did you study
okay,
it?
you know, this is this, and then obviously going online, seeing their facilities and
Sure.
seeing the field, chatting with the coach. That was a big one for me. Chatting with the coach, and seeing what he was like and what he valued and what was important to him, and hearing, you know, what their thoughts were on football, but also they were very big. All the coaches, even when I transferred, it was a similar process, and it was like, you know, what are they like when they talk to my dad? What are they like when they talk to my mom? And those type of things were important to me.
You know, going back to that moment where you're sitting there and kind of like trying to figure everything out, you know, how did your parents feel? Because, like, I mean, obviously, like, I mean, they raised you, like, you know, they're part of your life, and then all of a sudden you are going far, far away.
Yeah.
You know, like, how did they kind of like cope with that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it was tough for sure. I think for anyone that's a son, I think they know that their mum probably took it the hardest.
Yeah.
You know, I know that just coming back from the military, obviously within that year, and that was probably a lot for her as well. To then sitting here and thinking, wow, he's going now to the other side of the world, you know, and that was, I think she was excited from my mum's side, really excited for me for sure. But I know that, you know, she was always wanting me to be close so that she could support me and help me out. But she is one of, if not my biggest supporter. She, you know, she does everything that I do with football, with life, with school. You know, she's always the biggest cheerleader there, you know, cheering me on. Her, my sister, and my wife at the moment are the three spearheading that sort of
I love
game.
that.
Yeah.
I love that. So, you know, they say, okay, you finally make your selection. Was that kind of like a easy decision? Was it a hard decision?
It was hard, and touching on what we spoke about before, because I didn't know anything really. Yeah. You know, it was really hard. So when it came down to it, you know, again, it was once you got all these colleges that you're interested in and stuff. Obviously, it comes down for me was the scholarship that they were offering, the facilities, what they had, and then, you know, how comfortable I felt with the coach. That was for me a huge one. So, you know, there were the three sort of aspects that sort of shaped my decision. You know, so being able to, you know, give a decent sized scholarship, but, you know, the facilities, where are we going to be playing, where are we going to be training, what are we going to be doing, you know, day in, day out. And then, you know, I had some really good coaches in that aspect that were not only good coaches but good people.
So, you know, let's hit some advice here. You know, obviously you said that you're working with potential, like, some people that are going through this exact same process. What's kind of like the advice that you give them? Is it kind of like like look at the coach, exactly what you went through?
Similar. I tell them similar things. You know, I try just to draw my own experiences. You know, the coach is and to be fair, I think that's probably, I think from what I'm hearing nowadays is that the coaches do a very good job of that, but they do the same thing to the player. Now with social media being such a big thing, they're looking at, you know, their Instagram. What other things are they doing? There's a player here that's in our, I guess, pro team that's on a youth academy. So he's about to go. He's on an academy contract, but he's about to, you know, venture out and start that college process. And I know they're watching him on his Instagram and what he does with his spare time and, you know, what he posts. All those type of things are big, but you know,
isn't that so crazy that that's the way that, like, you know, we as individuals are being looked at now? It's like that social currency is so important.
Yeah, because I think there's two things. It's who do you claim to be, and who do you you know, what are you sort of pushing out on social media, and then who are you? Who are the person that you is? Because a lot of times on social media, a lot of people can show a lot, and you know, this is what I want people to see, but it's not until they sit down, because you know, they're having those conversations, hearing about what's important to the coach, hearing about what's important to them, and you know, does that resonate with you? Is that someone that you want to fight for? Is that something that you believe in? I think is a big, you know, I wouldn't say a deterrent factor, but a factor, because you know, if you don't want to run through brick walls for someone, I think that's going to be, for me, that's how I always knew, is if I get along with a coach and I believe in what they're saying, then that's going to give me an extra 5% on the field, because I genuinely believe in something bigger than just playing for myself. Now I'm playing for a club, or now I'm playing for a college or institution. It's not only got those other bits and pieces like your family and, you know, who you are and what you think. You know, you're playing for something that's got history and years and years and years of before you and after you that, you know, you've got to take on your shoulders and run with.
How was the flight over? Do you remember?
Long. I do. I was bumping some Mac Miller.
Oh, Mac Miller.
Yeah, bumping some Mac Miller. Welcome to America.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
Perfect.
I know.
Perfect.
I remember it because I think my first flight landed in Dallas.
Okay.
I don't think it was a typical LA. So I think I went Dallas. And then I had to go through like the whole customs and all that, and it was massive lines. And I'm already then like panicking, thinking, I'm going to miss my next flight, because my next flight's there to New York. And the whole trip, I think I listened the whole trip to Mac Miller, I think. So I was a big fan, big fan of Mac Miller, and had probably every song he'd ever made up to that point. Such a good guy. So I was listening to that, and then landed in. So first off, actually, I thought that the US public transport would be a lot similar to Australia. But it turns out it's not. But, so I went to New York and then got a cab, which is still one of my top experiences over here, I think. I got a cab. I landed at Friday night. So this is like 11:30, I think about 11:30 p.m. going through New York City to the Greyhound to get on a bus. Because I thought public transport was a bit different, but that was an experience with everything I own, going through the New York City's Greyhound. And got on the bus, and then my coach was meeting me in Boston, so I took a bus from New York to Boston. But yeah, that was such an experience. I remember, you know, just getting into a yellow cab, going downtown New York City, and you know, I just soaking it all in at the time. That's where it really hit me that, like, okay,
this is happening.
I am halfway around the world from anyone that I know, and like this is the next adventure, you know, and this is happening. And you know, that was the big excitement for me, was definitely driving through there, just thinking, okay, you know, just completely in awe, looking out all the windows and just thinking, okay, this is me. This is where it starts. You know?
As someone that has kind of like, you know, gone halfway across the country and done something completely different, like, you know, a lot of people say that they want it. Like, you know, what is something that you could potentially tell them to get them to actually do it? Because those two are very different things, right? A lot of people say, yeah, that sounds fun, but they have either, you know, reservations, or they're scared to. What would you say to them to kind of like encourage them to do it?
I don't know, mate. For me, a lot of why I've done a lot of things other than the football side of it is like, when I'm thinking back, we had an interesting conversation at dinner the other night with some good family friends and my family, but it was sort of like earn your wrinkles, you know, those times where you look back and you're thinking, maybe when I don't want to say you're on your deathbed or whatever, but when you're old and that, and you are all wrinkly, you know, and each of them are some sort of memory or some sort of thing that you did that wasn't in the safe zone, that wasn't in the, play it safe. And I think for me, a lot of what motivates me is a bit of regret. And I've already got some regret in my life, things that I would do massively different and things that I would want to change. But, I think that they're all ones that I can live with. But I wouldn't want to be sitting there at the end of the day when end of your life's coming to an end and you're sitting there thinking, God, I should have took that chance. I should have taken that trip, or I should have taken that opportunity, or I should have, whatever it's going to be. And I think that thing is what motivates me the most.
Mm-hmm. Love that. That. What's kind of like on the horizon for you? What's kind of like the next step for you right now?
I'm not sure. As I said, I bought my first house, and that's pushed a lot of curiosity in my way, and I've set myself a little goal, and I don't know how long it would take me to achieve, and I've got no restraints on it, but I want to own 3 properties. So I think that real estate and properties and things like that is something that you can consistently do on the side of whatever it is you're doing. Whether that's owning your own property, owning a second property, or owning an investment property. Yeah. I just think that that's something for me that's really caught some attention for me, and I've got a bit of interest in it as well. So that's sparking a bit of my interest at the moment, just watching way too much HGTV. I think my wife's Pinterest me 15 different things a day, and so we're getting the first one down before we head out, but that's what's consuming me at the moment for sure.
I love that. What kind of advice do you have just for the general public? Like, kind of like what would you like to leave them with? Or if you have any questions for them?
No, I think I've been trying to think of a time to put it in, but when we've been talking, there's been bits and pieces that are talking along a lot of things, and this has been sitting there in the back of my head, but I just haven't had the chance to throw it in.
Yeah, come on.
One thing that I think is just really important that I've gained through, my experiences and stuff, and just in life is, don't place a precursor in front of happiness. I think that's something that we're all guilty of doing, is whether it's the new job or the new house or whatever it is. I'll be happy when, I get that next job, or I'll be happy when, we move into the new house, or I'll be happy when X, Y, or Z happens.
Yeah.
I think that's, for us, life's short in comparison to the world, but, find ways to do things that make you happy now.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing? Because I think that's a choice. Happiness is a choice. There's so many things that we do, and I can speak from a lot of, relationship or professional life or personal life. There's so many different things, but that's one thing that I tried to cut out of my life is, stop placing a precursor in front of happiness.
I love that. How do people get that type of content from you? How do they get connected with you?
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @Joshua Phelps _ Look me up.
Hey. Sounds good. Josh, thank you so much. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Sir.
I mean, I feel like I'm actually super happy too, because I know for a fact that when I interviewed you last time, definitely botched everything. Didn't know the questions I asked, but super to have you back on the show.
No, man,
cool, man.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Cool.